Good morning. I'd like to call the June 20th Community Service Committee meeting to order. Roll call vote, please. Or roll call attendance, I guess. Not a vote. We're not voting yet.
Mr. Seroy,
Present.
Ms. Weber, Mr. Stauffenberg, Mr. Vickery, Mr. Tholen, Ms. Polk, Mr. Snipes, Ms. Evans, Mr. Payton, Ms. Peters, Mr. Johnson, Ms. Dunbar, Ms. Parker, Mr. Wheeler, okay. Mr. Snipes, you're here. Mr. Lear, we have a quorum.
I have one public comment. Mr. Pammer. I'll remind you, sir, you got 5 minutes.
I don't need that long.
All right.
I'm a fast talker. Good morning.
Morning.
I understand on the agenda for today was going to be talk about some old business related to the formation of a Kankakee County Animal Advisory Committee. And I've been part of a group that includes all the nonprofit shelters in the county, along with some citizen advocates. And I'm prepared on their behalf to present a member list that we have spoke to and interviewed that would be privileged to serve on this advisory committee to work with the county board, the community services committee, and animal control. I'm also prepared to present, although I don't have enough copies for everybody, a rough draft of some bylaws that could govern this advisory board that you could look at and discuss and amongst yourselves and with us and get back any changes or accept as is. So if you'd like, I could pass those out now. And I think that's all I have to say, except that on behalf of all the nonprofit shelters in the area and the advocates that are a member of a shelter coalition, they're eager to have you guys take a look at this and discuss moving forward with this advisory committee. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If you're going to stick around the rest of the meeting, we'll get to that point. But you can, if you're going to be here, you hold on to it. If you have to go, you can leave it with us.
No, I'm free this morning. I can
about that later on in the meeting.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the April 18th minutes. Mrs. Parker, Mrs. Polk. Voice vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to invite the recorder, Ms. Gadbois, up here, and I need a motion to approve both of her monthly reports. I believe are in your packet. Mr. Vickery, Mrs. Polk with second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Good morning, Lori.
Good morning. I guess I'll start with, are there any questions on the report at all? Either report, I guess.
Oh.
Want me to repeat that? Good morning. Are there any questions on either report this morning?
Is it on?
No?
That's on. That's on. All right.
No, it's not on.
No?
There we go. We're on. Okay. For the third time. Good morning.
Good morning.
Are there any questions on either report this morning? Okay, very good. With that, just a little update for you. I think when did we meet? March?
2 months ago.
April, whenever. Okay, so since then, House Bill 3036 has passed both chambers. So we are awaiting the governor's signature. With that, I've already started working with the state's attorney's office to start writing the resolution that will be presented to the committee, then has to be on public display for a total of 4 weeks before passage of a fee change can be made in the recorder's office. So we're working. We're going to get everything ready. So when he signs it, we can go. So we'll be shovel ready.
If in fact, for some reason, the governor doesn't sign it, we can still do what we need to do here, correct?
Yes.
Because it's really, we talked
Right.
about that.
It just will not be a predictable fee. It'll just be a fee increase.
Okay,
That's the difference.
perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep.
Any other questions on that? Okay. Just some other things to keep you updated on what's going on in the recorder's office. We continuously work on backlog in terms of imaging the microfilmed images that are in all those drawers so that they're accessible and ready for public viewing either on my public computers or from your home or office or wherever you may be if you need some information. So right now we are working on 1987. There's a total of 15,268 images for 1987. So far, we've done 4,795 completely imaged, indexed, and have accessible to the public. Every day, we work on that when we don't have daily work to do. So it keeps my office continuously busy and moving forward. And we average about 200 to 300 images a week. So that we're imaging, and then on top of that, then we have to put it in the system and index it. So there's a little time involved with that process. Some recorders' offices have the luxury of sending that out and having all the images brought back to them. We just don't have that kind of fund to be able to do that. That's an expensive process. So we're working on that. Other than that, things are going well. We're having a nice month this month. We're busy, and any questions I'd be happy to entertain right now at this time. No?
Ms. Gadbois, so we're 4.5 weeks or 4 weeks out for your increase in your office?
After the governor signs it
After
into
the
law.
Governor signs.
Yes, the legislation is very specific about it's immediate once he signs it into law, but for public information, it has to be it has to be published for the public to be aware that this will be coming. There's a process that's involved with banks, title companies, and attorneys. You just can't flick a switch and change a fee. There's notifications and laws, TRID laws, banking laws that have to be followed. So this notification will say on this date is when that fee will take place, so that they will be able to do their business, you know.
I was just wondering if we could start that process so that.
Unfortunately, no, it requires the governor's signature. Yes. So I would encourage associations like the Chairman's Association to possibly, show some support for signing that. I know our association is doing the same thing. We have the title companies, we have the banking industry, and the Realtors Association working in support of all of this. So we have some really nice partners in the industries that are encouraging support.
Good. I just don't want to see us miss the window of
Nope.
when your office is the busiest. We could maybe.
We never have we're always busy.
All right.
There's
That's
no,
good.
we don't have a season.
All right.
It's all the time.
Mr. Vickery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, is there more activity in property transactions now than a year ago?
Yes,
Okay,
very much so.
that's interesting.
Yeah, you would see on your report statistically, I've given you some, you could see a year ago. Let's see, this one is May's. Just by financial volume, if you look at May of last year and May of this year, you'll see an increase. Generally, when you see increases, you're going to see it because of the state stamps. Okay, when you see that, that's because it's a property transfer and they're paying state and county revenue stamps. Do you see where I'm at?
I'm probably not
Okay.
following you there
On the spreadsheet.
on the spreadsheet.
Okay, if you look at
May or
May
April?
of this year,
Is it May?
May, it would be your first page. Nope,
First
the other
page,
page,
okay.
that one.
This one here?
Right
Okay.
there. Look at May, which is your last financial column filled in.
You're looking at April.
123.
Oh, well, you should
It's two
you should have two reports.
Oh, I see.
You have to
Okay.
jump to the
I'm
current
going to
one.
the last month's. We can go to April's too. I'd be happy to do that. All right.
Okay.
All right. See where it says 38,640 under state stamps?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
All right. And if you look at the year prior for May,
31.
it was $31,351.50.
Okay.
State revenue stamps are $1 per thousand on the transfer. Okay. So you see a change and an increase. It's because there is more changing and happening. We've had some very, very nice commercial transactions and some farmland transactions, both April and May, and even as current as this month. So I think right now I'm at about 23,000 in state stamps for the month. So it's going really well. Yes.
Mrs. Evans, 8.
Are you seeing less transactions due to foreclosures? Or do you see it at your end when a sale comes through? Do you know if it's because it's been from a? I mean, do you have any way of knowing it once it gets
No.
to your office?
Unless it's a sheriff's sale. There's so many variations as to if a property goes into foreclosure, things that could happen and how it can transfer. And no, we don't track that. I track foreclosures for the month, notice of foreclosures that are filed. But no, I don't track the last part of it. That would be almost impossible.
So the notices, are they less
Mhm.
than they?
Yeah, that if you look on the back of your report, you'll see where it says total documents recorded for the month of May. And then over to the right, May deeds. That's how many deeds were recorded in the month. And then LP is Les Pendens, which is a notice of foreclosure. There was 22 for the month of May. In April, there were 10. So yes, compared to a year ago, I mean, and I could go through, I have probably 3 years here in my file. Yeah, I mean, there's months we've had 60 and 70. So yes, we are seeing a
That's
nice
good.
decline of foreclosures.
Good.
Any other questions for Mrs. Gadbois?
Very good.
Thank you
Everyone
very much,
enjoy
sir.
your day.
Have a good day. Okay, Mr. Blair is not available to, for a committee, so I'd like a motion to accept and approve his report. Mr. Stauffenberg, Mr. Payton. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. That was easy. On to the county clerk.
Dan?
I drew the short straw.
All right. Like a motion to approve both this month and last month's county clerk reports. Mrs. Parker, Mrs. Polk with the second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, everyone. Bruce, I'm assuming Bruce will be up here. He'll have some additional things he wanted to share with you, but I wanted to share a few things, if you'll indulge me. Some of the things that we've been working on since last we met. We've begun microfilming the county board records from 1979 to the current. In addition to having those records archived on film, we're also getting those scanned into a digital format. We're going to take those digital formats and put them onto our website so that they're accessible to the public. And by the time that we're all done with that, people could go in for a given month and see the minutes, the agenda, the resolutions, and it will be Google searchable. So if you don't know, for example, what month something transpired, you can put it into Google and it'll search through all the documents that we've got out there. We're anticipating that being done. We've got 4 months out there right now just as a test, but we're anticipating that being done probably by the end of July and accessible to the public within 2 or 3 weeks after that. So for us to do that, though, we had to move our website, KankakeeCountyClerk.com. I'm sure you've got it all bookmarked on your computers at home. We had to move that to a different vendor to be able to host our website. The cost for doing that, actually, we saved the county some money by doing that. It'll be a few dollars, but we get better service, more storage for less money. So monies that are coming from this aren't coming out of the general fund. They are coming out of our automation fund. Okay, voter registration. Anybody that's going to be out at the Friendship Festival Friday or Saturday, come by, stop by and see us. We'll be out there the whole day. So we're also going to be working with Olivet to be out at Bears Camp. We've done that in years past, so we'll do that again. We're probably going to be contacting the schools. We've done that historically during their fees days to see if they want us out there to provide voter registration services. Some schools have got, we've got our process lined up, how we want things to go. That's fine. We will be out there another time. Others invite us, and we have varying degrees of success. Sometimes the parents are, I want to write my check and get out and don't want to wait, but sometimes it provides a service to somebody that, we're in line, might as well do it. Also, if you haven't noticed, when you get downstairs, we have a poster on our board encouraging voter participation. We researched a company called Electricity, which is provided by the Center for Technology and Civic Life. They provide voter registration materials free of charge. We're going to use that to kind of promote voter registration, both in the office and on our Facebook page through social media. Again, no cost to the county. So, did anybody hear anything in the past few weeks about that hack into one of the voter registration systems? And just wanted to let you know that was one of the voter for the e-poll books. That was one of the companies that had bid for Kankakee County. We didn't go with that company. Went with a different company. You're welcome. Hi, Bruce. I started without you. Our electronic poll book system, while I would say that there is no system out there that is hack proof, our system with the iPads, it's a fairly secure system. The encryption method that we use to transmit data from the poll pads to our server that we have that data on is bank level security encryption. And that also is not touching our live voter registration data. So even in a worst case scenario, we have backups. We were able to experience one of those backups with the April election when we had a power outage at one of our polling places. I don't remember if we'd relayed that with you. Without electricity, we can't really function with the poll books, but we did have paper copies of the poll books that we were able to go back to as an emergency parachute in essence. And we didn't miss a beat. Nobody was turned away. So while, like I said, can't guarantee you that nothing will ever happen, we're pretty vigilant about making sure that, our data is safeguarded. Mobile homes, we're going to be rolling over our data to the treasurer when he prints the bills, which should be in the next week to week and a half. And some statistical information for you. As you know, our tax calculation extension redemption is through DevNet. And for the year to date, we've had 46 updates to the treasurer program, 16 for the mobile home, 5 for the tax calculation, $39 for our tax inquiry, and $6 for our tax redemption. I'm the person that's responsible for putting the updates into DovNet. So, and a couple other snapshots for you for our passports. From this time last year to June of this year, we're up about 30% for passports. We're also down for marriage license. We're down about 10%, but like I said, you know, that's just for the June period. So there could be some variables that make those changes. So that's pretty much what I had.
Mrs. Evans?
Dan, I had a question in regards to like when you're at Bears Camp and when you're at the Friendship Festival. Are you, and no, I'm not necessarily volunteering, but are you looking for volunteers to help when you're there doing voter registration, or you just use people in your office down there? And
Largely, we do use staff. However, if we are at a point where we need volunteers, we would absolutely entertain volunteers, and we've already got your name written down.
thanks, Dan.
Any other questions? Mr. Clark, you got anything to add to the
Couldn't have said it better.
discussion? I've always worried when we went electronic that whenever there's anything electronic in this day and age, you know, there's going to be somebody that figures out a way to get in it, and that I'm glad you brought that up today, Dan. That we're very protected in our data and our storage. I appreciate that.
You talked about the VR system. Okay.
So, Mrs. Weber.
Thank you. I was just wondering, with the tax season just were you okay with your customer flow with the line of taxpayers there? It looked like it was going well yesterday, even on the last day.
Yeah. Dan, did you?
Yeah, I would. I wasn't here yesterday, so I missed the flurry of activity. However, it does seem that the design of how we set up the 3 offices seem to work really well for making sure that we get all the customers taken care of in as expedient a manner as possible.
It looked really, really well done yesterday, for sure.
I think we worked well together. So.
Mhm.
Oh, that's good.
Glad that's working out. Any other questions? Oops, Mr. Vickery.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the hacking thing, there's a whole industry out there right now that's working on security issues. I happen to have a family member that's working on that, so I understand. Okay, so it's a very, very big industry on the security issues right now. I'm kind of new to this committee, and we approve these fees all the time. I'd like to know what they are. Just can we go down that list and
Sure,
said
yeah.
miscellaneous certificates, redemption fees, and
Yeah, and we can reissue again. I think at one time we listed we handed out a chart for each breakdown, but the marriage license, civil license fee, the very first one, do you have the 6-month report or the monthly report in front of you?
I'm looking at April right now, but I can look at May. Yeah, May.
Yeah, the
6 month, just a minute. 6 month report.
Oh, okay, 6 months. Got it.
the obviously the marriage license fee that we charge for issuing a marriage license. That's that income for the month. Miscellaneous certificates would be birth certificate, certified copies, redemption fees, of course, anytime that in the county clerk's office when somebody comes in and pays their sold taxes, we collect that redemption fee. It was we moved it up to $83. So you'll see a bump in the prior month of income, increased income, miscellaneous public services.
So that's the fee.
Right.
Not the tax, but the fee.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if you look down in fees of others at the bottom of the page, all those are the redemption fees. That's what goes to the tax buyers. Those are the receipts that come in. So Then we have miscellaneous public services, notaries, or passports. The automation fee is what breaks out. That's that $2 fee that we charged for that goes to the automation fund for every certified copy. There is a redemption automation that charges for certain types of collections on certain taxes. Postage reimbursement includes when we pay postage for tax buyers, when that is redeemed, that is a reimbursement. And public health, state treasury, that's a state mandated fee. That's what we mail. That's what we send to Springfield. That's required. The death fee is from on death certificates, and that's distributed to the coroner, to training, a third to us, and then the domestic violence is on tacked on marriage licenses. Interest earned, we have a sweep account at the end of the month, so we pick up a little interest. I'll drop in your mailbox a breakdown that gives every detailed certificate. We generated that, I think, back in December when we first met, I think. On the back, yeah, that's the monthly report. Yeah, that should pretty much it.
You went through, I think
Yeah.
you went through most of them. Any other questions, Mr. Vickery, about the fees?
No, that's,
I think Bruce said he's gonna drop you
yeah.
a breakdown of all of them from his office.
We just approve them every month, and I
No,
just
that's
kind of
good.
know what they are.
And you know, that's a good point. I'm glad you bring that up, because it's the county board committee that that directs the form to be reported for all committees. And so, you know, at one time, I think one of the county board members asked that the raffle license be included, and
I
that's
see it down there, yeah.
You see that down at the bottom, and that's a recent addition within a couple of months. So if there's anything that this board, you know, committee wants added to that report, you know, that's your responsibility and ask. So.
Any other questions for maybe Bruce or Dan?
Nope.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. You're welcome. I was tied up on.
Appreciate you being tied up.
Sorry.
Two questions for Dan. You had your chance.
Need a motion to approve Animal Control's monthly report. Mr. Snipes, Mrs. Evans, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Good morning, Julie. Well, she only, April and May, both? All right. I need another motion to approve last month's report. Mrs. Parker, Mrs. Evans. All in favor? All opposed? There, now we got them both covered.
Both of those. Sorry.
That's okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
Are there any questions on either of the reports at all? I do want to point out that you'll see on the May report, you'll see a blank, probably both on the month IPTIP building fund and the yearly. On the report that I'm having signed, I did put the same amount from April. I was just not able to get those numbers. The department, the Treasurer's Department, didn't have those numbers for me yet. So I'm sure there is some interest for that month, but since I didn't, wasn't able to get the report, I could not pass that on. I will update that next month, hopefully when I get those numbers. But I would assume it would be similar to April's, close to, $90 or $100 in interest, but I just can't report that to you on this report. Just to, touch base a little bit on both reports, you'll see the bites are up for a total, really in the month and as a total for the year.
We've had a lot of bats early that we've been sending as far as bite reports. If they have even been exposed, that's considered something that we send to be tested. So it's counted as in our bite numbers. We've had a really weird beginning of the year. The instances of dog-on-dog attacks, I think I've reported this in the last couple months, have been extremely high. Probably on a weekly basis, we are responding to calls on dogs getting loose and going and being aggressive with other dogs. Oftentimes that involves people that try to intervene and stop that, and then somebody ends up getting bitten as well. I'm not really sure what's driving that, other than trying to put that message out there that everybody needs to do their due diligence in being responsible for their animals and keeping them contained. Mishaps happen, but it seems to be extremely high this year compared to other years.
Question, Mrs. Weber?
Hi, thank you. I see under village revenue, I was just inquiring about the nice community of Buckingham with their agreement. Have they been able to use the services? And the second part of it is, what other village revenue do you have here then? What other villages?
We certainly don't have any other contractual agreements like we do with Buckingham. We have been able to respond to Buckingham calls. When a citizen has that need and they call us, we're really happy to be able to just promptly respond to their need.
Sure.
And we are working on getting out to Buckingham to get a vaccination clinic. They had asked about that. We want to be able to provide that for them, for their community, in a microchip clinic. And let their, just remind their citizens out there that we're there for them, whether they have questions about their own pets or concerns about, other pets that, may be misbehaving in the neighborhood. So we're real happy to do that. And, again, we continue to be hopeful that other communities will see the value of that service and, come on board with that. But our revenue is up both months. And you can see then for the year, we're up about $5,000 in May compared to last year. That's, I suppose, good and bad. That means that there's more calls that we're going on. We're being called out, but that can also mean that there's, a higher activity of animals being loose. And some of that is driven by those dog-on-dog, aggressive attacks. And so it's, while we're happy for the revenue, we're not happy that we're out there on more calls, because that generally means problems.
Thank you.
Bites equal books.
There you go.
There we go.
I don't know if I like that.
Mrs. Evans.
When cases go to court and you have to, you file the bond for that family or that organization or individual, whatever, to pay for the animals that you have housed, and they do not, if they don't pay the fee, then they relinquish the rights. But are they liable to pay any fees to you then, because you picked up their animals and now you're responsible for them and they didn't come up with the bond money that they needed by a certain date? Or do you ever collect that? Is that possible?
In my past experience, most of the time we end up shouldering the responsibility of housing and caring for the animals. And court cases, generally when you're dealing with that type of a thing where you've impounded animals and there's pending criminal charges and you're applying for security funds, is what that's called. It gives the owner an opportunity. You have to go in front of a judge and you have to say, this is what the costs would potentially be for the next month to care for these animals involved. If the judge grants that, the animal owner has 5 business days to post that money with the courthouse, with the circuit court, money that animal control could potentially draw off of to care for the animals. It's been my experience when that happens, generally that money does not get posted. The individuals haven't been able to properly care for the animals, so they really don't have the money to generally post that. And it certainly could come down when the case is heard that a judge could ask for some compensation as part of the sentencing, but generally that doesn't happen. Certainly, we'd like to see that. I think a lot of times citizens think that we're gaining a lot of revenue when we bring animals in and adopt them out, and I think across the board, the nonprofits as well as government agencies know that there's not really money to be made in adoption.
So the burden is yours.
The burden is ours. I think State's Attorney had asked me in the last several months, why do we want a barn? Why do we want to house these large animals? Isn't it just better to let somebody else handle it, board them, so to speak? And I said, well, I can tell you in the last couple of years when we had the big equine case that just kept developing more and more, it started with 3 and ended up with, I think, 15. We probably paid over $12,000 to someone else to care for those animals. So I don't really feel that it's in our best interest. And I think there was an individual that thought that we made back revenue from that when we then adopted them all out, and we don't. We transfer them on to other equine centers, and we get nothing. We're generally in the hole on all of those kind of services, and it's okay. I mean, revenue wise, no, it's not, but that's not why we're doing it. A recent case where security posting was filed, the case is still open, so certainly I can't talk about that, but public record says this money was ordered by the judge. It wasn't paid. The animals were forfeited. I suppose we could have tried to adopt them all out. We get concerns that sometimes friends or family members may try to come back and adopt those animals back, and then they end up getting back to the person where this all stemmed from. And there's actually legislation out there. I haven't looked lately to see where that's at, but a law that says it would be a crime for anyone to take an animal that was forfeited or taken by an animal control and give it back to the individual, because some of my colleagues have had that type of thing happen. So all of those animals were just transferred. We held them for, oh gosh, I'm trying to think, a month or better, 2 months. And those animals were all transferred to another organization, to Shelter Partners. So again, there was no revenue that came back to us, but we're happy that the animals have a better opportunity at new homes.
Mr. Stauffenberg.
Chairman, Julie, what type of animals are euthanized under wildlife?
For the most part, bats, raccoons, possums. Those are the 3, biggest animals that we get. We are not going out for nuisance animals. There are either animals that have potentially are a public threat, a raccoon or a possum out during the day where that's not normal. They're usually stumbling around. We'll get calls. There's a lot of children around. And most of those have distemper. That chance of having rabies is always there. I attended a rabies workshop here just a couple weeks ago, and it was very interesting for the veterinarian to point out that rabies is coming from the east. Raccoon rabies, skunk rabies is coming up from the south. Raccoon rabies is coming down from the north, and we sit here and it's closing in. So, that message to vaccinate our domestic pets and leave the wildlife alone is important.
Thank you.
Mr. Snipes.
2 questions. The first one is, I see that the donation's up by 100% in April and about 97.5% in May for donations. There's more people giving.
A little bit. I think we've got a couple of people that have been consistently giving, and some people will come in and they'll want to donate, and we'll say, where do you want your funds? How do you want your funds to benefit? Do you want them to benefit the daily operation or the building fund? And generally, if they say they want to help support the building fund, then we turn them towards BARC and let those donations go to BARC so that we know that it can get earmarked better for the building fund. But a lot of folks are they're happy to just help our operational procedure too. So we're happy to see those donations increase.
Oh, that sounds good. And the second question is, I'm noticing a lot of single parent moms with about 6 kids coming through the neighborhoods called raccoons. And they're in the school areas and the whole 9 yards of Kankakee. And it looks, because there's not a, I know they call for dogs or cats, but with the raccoon, the population has increased all over the place. And it's not unusual to see a raccoon with 6 of her kids and things going around that has now grown up a little bit, and they're moving in little packs across the street, and then individuals walking. But if her kids feel threatened, she will stand there and look at you or whatever. So, I mean, what are we going to do to control them, or what can the city, I know, don't like paying anything, but some kind of way we got to look at for the public safety. So any suggestions?
We do respond to the calls if they are a threat out there. If the animal doesn't appear sick or injured, we're not just out picking them up as a nuisance type of call. That type of call would have to go through a licensed person through DNR. They charge for their services. They're effective with what they do. We really don't want to spend our time trying to concentrate on the wildlife. It's not good to take a wildlife and just move them to another area. They could have diseases that could then be introduced to areas that don't have that disease. So that's never a good idea. Or they're a newbie in the woods and they're getting pushed out, and what do? They end up on the street, get hit by a car. Those aren't the right answers. Certainly, I think that message is out there that we need to try to coexist and cohabitate with the wildlife. Generally, your raccoons and your possums are nocturnal. They're not coming out during the day. If you see one that is, if it's stumbling around, we'll certainly help in that instance. But the city, they may need to reach out to DNR and ask for some assistance or guideline with that.
DNR, which is?
Department of Natural Resources.
Yeah, because I see them out, and then some people coming home from church, and I got a call like, what am I going to do? And call the city, and they say they handle the dogs and cats through the county, but the raccoon, one individual was in the morning going to bring out his garbage, and the raccoon was there, and then he encountered the noise, so he shot, and then the raccoon shot. So as a result, we don't, we don't want any occurrence. And now they're saying I know the cohabitat, but when you're looking at the rabies coming in, hopefully rabies are not airborne. Because
it is not.
Yeah, if it was, we would be in trouble. But the potential for someone getting harmed is a concern, because you'll see 6-8 of them in a tree, and individuals trying to get into their house, but feel threatened by this raccoon. So what do they do? Call 911 to the 1.
They're still going to need to reach out to the city, and that's the city's decision. So that pressure and that message needs to go back to the city to handle that. And mama raccoons are extremely protective. They're very good mothers, and they're going to do what they need to do to protect their young. It's that spring is the season where we've got moms and babies out there of all species, And it's best to maybe just go back in and give them a little time to move on. Make a lot of noise. We had a lady call the other day that one was in her garage. She said, my car's in there, I need to get in. I said, do you have a key fob with an alert? I said, press that button, make a lot of noise. And the city did allow us to go over there, but the raccoon was gone, and she had done the things that we suggested, and it had moved on.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on this subject? Otherwise, I'm going to, Mr. Vickery?
Not a question, but possibly, is food the answer? I mean, you've got to really secure the garbage.
You do.
Raccoons can get into a closed garbage can. If they do it one time, they're going to get in it
Got
again.
one down the alley from me, and they've chewed it. They've chewed right through the lid.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Very smart animal.
Food is part of the answer, I would think. Thank you.
Sure. In the wintertime, things are, they freeze quicker, so the smell isn't there as much in the summertime. Your garbage, if it's not well secured, is certainly going to draw those animals. And, keeping things tidy and secure and picked up around your home will help.
Thank you. And moving on the agenda to additional fees for bellwether studies there's a page in your packet that talks about the impound fees, where they were and where we would like them to go. If you have any questions about that, I'm sure Julie would be happy to answer. Otherwise, I might need a motion to approve the new fees. Do you want to give a basic synopsis of the new fee study, or this particular portion of it?
A few months ago in April, I had brought suggested increases from the bellwether study, and it was asked why I hadn't approached this particular one. There's certainly always concern with things going too high, but this was quite a bit of difference from the actual cost to the department. Now, this study was done in 2013, so we've gone on several years falling quite a bit under that actual cost to the department. So we felt that it was time to address all of the concerns and the shortcomings with the fee study that was done. So the last ones on that list were the impoundment fees to both the general public and the municipalities. The studies showed that we were falling about $20.51 under the actual cost to the department. So the increases that I'm suggesting or recommending is to increase $20 to both the general public from impoundment and the municipality from picking up from a holding pen during regular business hours. I am not asking for any increases or recommending any increases to the after hours fee. The fee for that, when you're looking at all of the what goes into that as far as your employee that goes out on this call, your vehicle, your maintenance, your insurance, the bringing the animal in back in, all of the administrative work and assessing it in, something that I don't know that all of the community understands. When an animal comes through our shelter, unless it's microchipped or tagged, and we can very quickly find out whether this animal is current on vaccinations or not, we're giving those vaccinations, because it's our only line of defense to try to protect the animals that are there from a sick animal coming in. It's the best we can do in a shelter situation. So in that impoundment fee includes the fact that we give distemper, kennel cough. Rabies is given, but certainly not by us. That's done by the veterinarian. Deworming, defleeing, they come in loaded with ticks. So those are some of the additional things that go into that impoundment fee and that intake fee. So that's my recommendation today.
Mr. Vickery?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to accept those recommendations on those fees, and that would move it into discussion so
Yes.
members could discuss.
Thank you, sir. And second, Mrs. Parker? Okay, so now discussion on the fees. Mr. Wheeler?
I've spoken with Julie about this on a couple different occasions, and I just want to make sure for my own knowledge, something I didn't ask was, most of the time on the impoundments, are those calls that are for dogs running loose and you guys have to take it in, try to find the owner? Would you say that's a majority of them, or is it a combination of cats and dogs? Or if you could just off the cuff, is it a 60-40, 70-30, or?
I would probably say it's certainly probably more dogs than cats, but we do, bring in, the cats tend to go up really high during the spring and summer, but overall it's more dogs than cats that are out there running at large and being picked up. And sadly, more dogs get reclaimed than cats. We are thrilled when a cat gets reclaimed in a month. There have been years that only one cat has gotten reclaimed by an owner in a year. I've never ever understood why our kennels are be full with wonderful cats that have had owners, and you've got people coming in looking for their cats, but we don't have their cats, but we don't have the owners to the cats that are there. We have seen that increase a little bit, and we're really happy. Again, I think microchipping helps. You've got that microchip. It's not 100%. Sometimes you go back and people have moved, information has gone stale. But far and large, that helps a lot. And
Is this the same for like a horse is running with wild, or I shouldn't say a cow or whatever, any other type of
animal?
Yeah. Any animal that gets brought in has an impoundment fee, has an intake fee associated with it.
Okay.
And
This goes for all animals?
Yes.
This 45? Okay.
yeah, even the stray rabbits that we've picked up in the last few weeks, well, we've had I believe 2 or 3 of them, darling little bunnies, and we don't have any proof who the owner is. We have an assumption that somebody just abandoned these rabbits, but obviously nobody's reclaiming them, and we've already moved them on to another shelter partner that has better adoption success with rabbits than we do.
Mr. Snipes?
Just for the record, I want to adopt anything that deals with steaks or pork chop. I mean, if you get a cow or hog in and you just can't find anyone to adopt it, just...
We only adopt it to homes that love them, not that eat them.
We promise to love them.
He wants the lean meat.
Gotta go to a butcher for that, sorry.
Oh, Mr. Snipes. Okay, so any other discussion on the fee study? I need all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. This will go on to the full board for approval, I believe.
Thank you. I just had a couple little updates. Wanted to share with the committee. Our Bark event, the Raise the Wolf event, was very successful. We had a great time. The comedians were funny, as comedians are. Sometimes there were a couple little shock factors, but I think that's what a comedian does. But overall, I think it was a really great time. Was very well attended. I don't have final numbers from Bark. I do know a report that was sent out the other day shows that the Bark Fund is $90,000+. So that's growing, and we're certainly happy for that. Also, the several of our staff members the first week of June attended the Prairie States Animal Welfare Conference. This is the top regional conference in the state of Illinois. I can tell you that I've attended this conference for 16 years, and there's always a lot of great information, really great speakers that come from all over the nation, even sometimes from out of the country, that come and speak on behavior, enrichment, medical issues. We usually have, the Prairie State Conference has 3 tracks, and they try to offer something for executives, for line staff, and for animal control as well. So we try really hard to get as many staff members as we can there every year. The learning never stops. It's we really appreciate the opportunity to go to this conference, and we'll continue to do so.
That's all. Thank you, Julie. I'm going to leave you up here, Julie, for a little while when we talk about this old business. And moving on to old business, you guys will see that the formation of the Kankakee County Animal Advisory Committee. I had talked to some members of this committee, Mrs. Parker and Mrs. Dunbar, about being our representatives for that advisory committee. I know Mr. Wheeler has talked also, and I'll lend the floor to you, Mr. Wheeler, if you want to discuss this committee and the process of what we're going to do about it.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, this, we all know the history here, where this started, why we put this together, or had the intent to put this together. And I received different I guess, outlines of different committee structures from different angles. I believe Diane Arth gave me one that was very helpful. I looked at other areas on the interactions between official subcommittees, ad hoc committees, and you know, the work that they do and how they go about things. And so what I did is I kind of pulled together a lot of that into just a kind of a shell that will fill with really work that the committee needs to do as given to them by this committee, obviously, and self-generated things that they want to discuss and bring up and to forward on to the community services for consideration. And if the community service would see that as something they want to forward on to the full board, then so be it. So the first thing is to determine, you know, you need a number of people. You need not an even number of people, because you will vote on different things from time to time. You know, so once we had a couple of board members being, you know, on board to help out and help structure this, then we had to figure out who else needed to be there. And the first thing is on everyone that I found, you need a licensed veterinarian. So that needs to, we would look for that individual. You know, but let me circle back on the makeup a little bit. But first of all, in my mind, we had to have a mission. What is the mission? What is the goal? What is the object of what we're trying to accomplish? And the mission that I'm throwing out there, because this is while it is not an official county board subcommittee that is subject to open meetings, because we don't have a quorum of county board members there, we want to run this in a professional manner. So the mission would be to provide a platform for input and assessment of current and proposed county policies, and to make recommendations to the Kankakee County Community Services Committee for policies relating to animal welfare and ordinance enforcement. Now, whether that means analyzing new ordinances, existing ordinances, we'll leave that committee up to do its work. We don't want to tell folks what to do, but we want to make it structured. And under that guideline, the respect factor has to be in place, that people have differing opinions. This is a way to flush these out, and to be able to start with, as an example, you know, we want this, as there may be an individual in this committee that has say, hey, I want to have something come forward for consideration, and there needs to be an assessment of, okay, well, what is the statute on this? What is our current ordinance on this? How do we achieve, okay, it conflicts with the ordinance that we have. Do we need to change the ordinance, or it conflicts with the statute? How do we get the desired outcome within that framework? So again, it's respecting the process and being able to figure things out. The other thing was a meeting schedule. As it starts off with right now, I had down, it meets bi-monthly here at the county building. We'll figure it out. I have had after community services meeting, but then I thought again about this after I put it together. If there is something they want to take to community service, they'd have to wait a full month. So we may want to do this around when we do executive committee or something like that, maybe after our executive committee meeting, to have everybody come in right afterwards. So we'll get more to go on that. But then to facilitate self-regulation of shelters and compliance with the applicable laws, we want this to be a place where people come and discuss what groups might be doing outside of this committee, to celebrate those successes, and also how compliance is being followed within the local community and elsewhere within the state or around the nation. So That being said, ACT is a work group aimed at building a consensus for attainable goals. The old 80-20 rule may apply. Hopefully we can agree on 80% of the things, and then we'll work on the other 20 as time goes on. Don't let those be deal breakers. The one thing that is going to be required, or a couple things, is that there has to be an application to the board and to the chairman for the appointment. That's going to be required. So those applications are on our website. You can email me, and I will get you the application back, but they need to be filled out and submitted. One of the goals that I talked to Julie about is I think we need to establish a ride-along program for the committee members. So maybe it's your month to do ride-alongs, and if they're, for someone who may not be in a conflict of interest, but be under strict guidelines, liability, we'll work with the state's attorney to make sure, okay, you got to sit in the car, you can't go in the house, because sometimes people get agitated. But we want the public to be more involved in what we see as animal control, and to understand some of the limitations we have. But also be committed to bringing about compliance to current animal control ordinances. If there are things that are a problem, we want to talk about it, but we also have to be a rule of law type committee also. And if some things need to change, we'll talk about that. And if they're in conflict with state statutes, then we'll figure out, again, how do we get to where we want to go. Robert's Rules of Order, has to be followed. Everybody has a time to speak and be recognized by the chair. That's why the chair is going to be appointed. Is someone who understands Robert's Rules of Order. We will put agendas out 48 hours ahead of time, and we'll do minutes. Diane will be there to be able to do minutes, and she's looking at me staring hard right now as if she doesn't have enough work to do. But I think it's important to be able to follow up on what we're talking about in a professional manner. But fully discuss all proposed animal control ordinances. If Julie sees something that needs to be addressed like we had done in the past, this will be the starting point for that, to bring it in and talk about it, to get everybody's input. Because we don't want to feel like we're rolling over the top of people, but we want also people to know that we have a certain set of guidelines and we have a problem. What do we do to fix it within the constraints of the law? And then finally, all individuals on this must be a resident of Kankakee County. This is our area, so we're going to have only residents from the area. So going back up to the makeup, the veterinarian, there's 3 slots on here for shelter operators, whether it's board members. I would prefer to have different shelters. I would hope that they could, pick somebody to throw out there. It could be somebody that works in the kennel. It could be somebody that is a staff member. It doesn't, just each place could be represented. There's 3 of those, 2 Kankakee County board members, as I mentioned. There's 3 at-large appointed by the chairman. So there's 3 positions there. And then a non-voting member would be Julie, the animal control director. There is a guidepost of what the way the operations work. Again, not a voting member, not somebody who can control the discussion, but someone to be able to provide that background and the connection to the state statutes and what we have locally. So with that, there is a room in there for the committee to do a lot of things that they so choose to do. But there are only a few things that I have to have as far as structure goes. And those appointments will come from the chair. They will come from the county board, and we will provide all the resources necessary to facilitate these discussions, which is use of this room, the agendas, use of Diane's time. And then Julie is all in to move down this path. So while it's not an official committee, it would be more like the blessing of community services to say, yeah, we kind of agree with this path, we agree with this makeup, and they will come and report to us from time to time, and we'll build them into the agenda. So.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept the formation of the Kankakee County Animal Advisory Committee, and then we can discuss Mrs. Evans. You got that? All right. We'll go Mrs. Polk. Yeah, Polk and Evans. All right. So now do we have discussion? Mr. Snipes, would you like to lead discussion?
No, I think it's a great opportunity in the right direction. Certainly the young man that spoke this morning is interested, or his committee is interested, so I would probably encourage them as they pilot this program to put in their applications and consider being a part of the committee as well. The only thing I probably have a disagreement with is the giving Diane some more work. I'm
sure
almost
Diane
saying,
disagrees with you also.
Right.
I think I heard a volunteer.
I heard that. But so maybe we got to look at a part-timer into helping Diane out. I think she does an extraordinary job, but a lot of work. Thanks.
Mrs. Peters, do you have anything to add to that? Okay. Mrs. Parker, hold on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope that with this committee, that all the ordinances will be provided to all so they can be studied, reviewed before going into this. I think it would be well in our advantage that we all knew what they were, that we can refer to them in discussion in the committee, if that could be a possibility.
That's a good. Are
They
your
are-
ordinance available online?
They're all online?
They're all online at municode.com.
Let me-
I can double check my website, but I want to
you-
say that I put a link to help go
Okay.
straight to that.
Thank you. That would be
along with
helpful.
all of the county board ordinances or Kankakee County ordinances.
Okay.
They're there at municode.com. The most up to date, other than maybe the resolutions that were just passed in the last few months.
Okay.
It does take a little time for those things to get updated.
Okay.
Anyone else have a? Mrs. Weber.
I wanted to ask about a timeline because things do move a little slowly. So, is there a deadline to apply? Is there a deadline to choose?
We probably
something?
should put it within a 30-day window. I mean, would you think, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, that was it was more of announce it here. We're actually going to put that announcement in the newspaper like we do with all other committee appointments that are for other things.
Okay.
And we'll give it by date certain. So I would say I would like to give it 30 days to advise everybody, and maybe not this month's executive committee, which is
2 weeks.
2 weeks away.
Yeah.
We'll probably in the middle of the month notify those folks, make sure they're still interested, and then have the first meeting at the following next month. And we need to come up with agenda items, so we'll get everybody there. We'll start to have an organizational meeting, if you will. So it'll be sooner than later, to answer your question. We want to get moving on this.
Right.
So
And just the other side of that, the at-large appointed would not necessarily have to be employed or connected to a shelter.
exactly,
Should
that was
be.
the whole point of that, was to have other people in the community that may used to have volunteered for, or just
They
volunteer to take, they care. It could be somebody who's in
Anybody that
vet
wants to
tech
be
school.
involved.
It could be
Yep.
someone who's in vet tech school. It could be somebody, exactly, anybody that wants to be involved. Because we want people that have a horse in the race, so to speak. Boy, that was unintentional. But they're actively involved in the industry, if you will. And then other people who may volunteer at shelters, and they see things and they have ideas and those types of things. So we want to make it open to everybody.
Any other questions about the PAC? I call it the Pet Advisory Committee.
I like that.
Nice.
Mr. Snipes,
Just one. Will this committee be meeting quarterly, or will they be meeting?
bi-monthly, I think,
It'll
sir.
be bi-monthly.
It says here, so every 2 months, I'm guessing.
Every two.
Every
Okay.
2 months. That way they'd have some time to. I'm sure the first couple meetings, they're all going to be getting their feet underneath each other and trying to figure out what direction they want to go. I'm sure. It's
Along
good
those lines, I wanted to make it so that committee could decide based on work.
where they want to go.
Maybe the winter months are taken off, or maybe the middle summer months are taken off based on seasonality. Maybe everybody's busy at the shelters during the summer because everybody's adopting. You know what I mean? We don't want to be cumbersome.
Right,
But
right. We want to make it work for everybody. That's the key. Make everybody's involved. Any other questions?
I just have one
Okay.
comment. I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you. Thank you to the committee. Thank you to all of those that care passionately about the animals. I've been in this position for quite a while. I've worked on the other side in the veterinary field for several years as well. And even before I was involved in animal control, there was always a riff or a break or a wedge in between the animal control department and the private organizations and the public's perception. And it's time that our little neck of the woods, our community comes together and does what's best for not only, you know, the animals, but the people, the community as a whole. And I look forward to this opportunity and to finally be able to say, you know, those that are here now, that we've done it. We've come together, we've put our the differences aside, and we've taken the passion that we have and we've driven it in a forward motion to positive things, and not just being passionate to be right and not listen to the other person. So I really look forward to it, and I'm excited for it.
I appreciate you, Julie, for being on board with all this, because, you know, you've been doing this a long time and you know the ins and outs, and now you get to share that a little bit with everybody and maybe hear some other sides of other things. So I appreciate you being so open-eared and open-armed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, good things are happening. Okay, moving on
All
to
those in favor?
all. Yeah, we need a vote. All those in favor.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moving on to new business. Is there any new business to be brought before the committee? Any new business? Seeing and hearing none, can I get a motion? Mr. Snipes, Mr. Stauffenberg. All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good day, everybody.